You don't need to raise your voice to prove your strength. You don't need to dominate a conversation, nor command a room with an imposing physical presence to demonstrate power. In a world that often mistakes noise for substance and aggression for authority, there exists a different kind of fortitude, a quieter, more profound strength. It is the strength of a grounded mind, a mind that commands respect not through overt displays, but through its very presence, a presence so centered, so unwavering, that it can, at times, feel almost intimidating to those accustomed to the turbulence of unchecked emotions and reactive impulses. This isn't about inspiring fear in the conventional sense. It's about cultivating an inner resilience so profound, a self-mastery so complete, that it naturally elicits a sense of awe, and perhaps even a touch of unease, in those who are easily swayed by the chaotic currents of life. Imagine a deep, still lake amidst a raging storm. Its surface may be touched by the rain, but its depths remain undisturbed. That is the mind we are here to explore, and more importantly, to build. Are you ready to begin this transformation? Let us delve into the first crucial step. 1. The unyielding mind, a Stoic paradigm shift. The journey to an unshakable mind begins not with an accumulation of techniques or affirmations, but with a fundamental paradigm shift. It starts with letting go. Letting go of a pervasive, often unspoken, illusion that life is supposed to be easy, that circumstances should bend to our will, that fairness is an inherent guarantee. Many of us spend our lives wrestling with reality, lamenting its imperfections, and feeling personally affronted when it doesn't meet our expectations. This struggle, this resistance, is the very root of much of our suffering. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus, in his Enchiridion, a manual for living, stated with stark clarity, men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. It's a revolutionary idea. The job loss, the illness, the betrayal, these events are, in themselves, neutral. It is our interpretation, our judgment that they shouldn't have happened, or that they are an unbearable catastrophe, that inflicts the deepest wounds. Consider the sheer amount of mental and emotional energy we expend wishing the world were different. If only this hadn't happened. Why me? This isn't fair. These internal monologues, while perhaps understandable, are fundamentally disempowering. They cast us in the role of a victim, passively awaiting a change in external fortunes. The Stoic mind shift flips this script entirely. It proposes that instead of wishing for a more compliant world, we should focus on forging a more resilient self. The world will continue to be unpredictable, at times harsh, and often indifferent to our desires. This is not a cynical outlook, it is a realistic one. And realism, for the Stoic, is the bedrock of strength. This mental reorientation is about ceasing to demand that life unfold according to our preconceived notions of ease and fairness. It's about recognizing that hardship, challenge, and discomfort are not aberrations but integral components of the human experience. Think of the strongest individuals you know, not necessarily those with the most accolades or material wealth, but those who possess a palpable inner fortitude. Are they the ones who have always had a smooth, untroubled existence? Or are they, more often than not, individuals who have weathered significant storms, faced profound losses, or overcome daunting obstacles? Their strength wasn't gifted to them, it was forged in the fires of adversity. They didn't just survive these experiences, they were transformed by them, because at some crucial juncture, they stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and began to explore, "Given that this is happening, what can I learn? How can I respond virtuously?" This brings us to one of the most foundational principles of Stoicism, the dichotomy of control. Epictetus articulated it masterfully: some things are in our control and others not. Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever are our own actions. Things not in our control are body, property, reputation, command, and, in one word, whatever are not our own actions. This distinction is not merely an intellectual exercise, it is a practical tool for allocating our precious and finite resources of energy and attention. Imagine drawing a circle. Inside this circle are your thoughts, your judgments, your choices, your actions, your responses. Outside this circle lies everything else: the past, the future, other people's opinions and actions, the weather, the economy, your physical health, and ultimately, life and death. The Stoic disciplines their mind to focus intensely on what lies within the circle and to cultivate a form of serene acceptance towards what lies outside it. This isn't about passive resignation. It's about strategic engagement. Why waste your energy trying to change the wind? Instead, focus on adjusting your sails. If you're facing a difficult colleague, you cannot control their personality or behavior. But you can control your response to them, your professionalism, your boundaries, and your efforts to find constructive ways to interact or, if necessary, to disengage. If you receive a negative medical diagnosis, you cannot unilaterally will the illness away. But you can control your commitment to seeking the best available treatment, your adherence to medical advice, your efforts to maintain a positive and resilient mindset, and how you choose to live each day you have. Let's consider the life of Seneca, a prominent Stoic philosopher and statesman. He faced numerous trials, including exile to the barren island of Corsica under Emperor Claudius. For many, such a fate, stripped of power, wealth, and familiar surroundings, would be a crushing blow, a cause for unending bitterness and despair. Yet, Seneca, while undoubtedly experiencing the human pain of such a reversal, used his time in exile to write some of his most profound philosophical works. He focused on what he could control: his thoughts, his studies, his writing, his inner life. He couldn't change the emperor's decree, but he could choose how to inhabit his solitude, transforming it from a prison into a crucible for wisdom. As he wrote in his essay on the shortness of life, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Wasting time, for Seneca, included expending energy on futile resistance to the unchangeable. This leads us to another powerful Stoic concept, amor fati, or the love of fate. Popularized by Nietzsche but deeply resonant with Stoic thought, amor fati goes beyond mere acceptance of what happens. It is an active, even joyful, embrace of one's destiny, in its entirety, the good, the bad, the ugly. It is the understanding that everything that occurs, even the most painful experiences, is a necessary part of the grand tapestry of existence, the interconnectedness of cause and effect that the Stoics referred to as logos, or cosmic reason. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who faced constant war, rebellions, personal betrayals, and the devastating Antonine Plague, wrote in his Meditations, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." And again, more pointedly, "All that is in accord with you is in accord with me, O world. Nothing which occurs at the right time for you comes too soon or too late for me." This isn't a call to be a doormat or to suppress genuine feelings of sorrow or frustration. It is a call to find meaning and opportunity even in the darkest of times. It's the mindset that asks not, "Why did this happen?" but, "What can this make of me?" When faced with a setback, the mind practicing amor fati doesn't just endure, it seeks to extract wisdom, to build strength, to find a path forward that incorporates this new, perhaps unwelcome, reality. It is the ultimate alchemy of the spirit, turning lead into gold. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, exemplified this profound mind shift in the unimaginably horrific conditions of Auschwitz. In his seminal work, Man's Search for Meaning, he observed that those prisoners who were most likely to survive were not necessarily the physically strongest, but those who retained a sense of purpose, a reason to live, even amidst utter degradation. Frankl himself found his purpose in the hope of one day being reunited with his wife and in his determination to reconstruct his lost manuscript on logotherapy. He wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." This is the essence of the Stoic paradigm shift. The circumstances may be dire, imposed, and uncontrollable. But the inner response, the meaning we assign, the attitude we cultivate, this remains ours. So, how do we begin to cultivate this unyielding mind in our modern lives, filled with their own unique pressures and anxieties? Start by becoming a keen observer of your own thoughts. When adversity strikes, a missed promotion, a critical comment, a sudden financial worry, notice your initial internal reaction. Is it one of resistance? Of wishing things were different? Of blaming external factors or yourself? Gently, without judgment, introduce the dichotomy of control. Ask yourself, what aspects of this situation are truly within my power to influence, and what aspects are outside of it? Write them down if it helps. Visually separating these can be incredibly clarifying. Then, consciously redirect your energy towards the elements you can control. If you were overlooked for a promotion, you can't force your boss to change their mind. But you can seek feedback, identify areas for skill development, update your resume, explore other opportunities, and rededicate yourself to excellence in your current role. These are actions rooted in personal agency. Practice the art of reframing. When you encounter a challenge, instead of viewing it solely as a negative event, ask, what is this situation making possible? What strength is it asking me to develop? What lesson is embedded here? This isn't about naive positive thinking, it's about a robust engagement with reality, seeking out the potential for growth that often lies hidden within difficulty. The mental shift that changes everything is the conscious decision to stop being a passive reactor to life and to become an active, principled responder. It's the realization that true strength isn't found in the absence of problems, but in our capacity to meet them with wisdom, courage, and an unwavering commitment to our own inner development. This is not an easy path, but it is a path to profound freedom and an unshakable mind. And once this foundation is laid, we can begin to address the specific habits that may be undermining this newfound strength. 2. Shattering the chains, eradicating habits of mental frailty. Once we have embraced the foundational Stoic mind shift, understanding that our power lies not in controlling external events but in mastering our inner responses, the next crucial step is to turn our attention inwards, to the subtle, often unconscious habits that can systematically undermine our mental fortitude. A strong mind isn't built merely on grand philosophical insights, it is forged in the daily discipline of identifying and dismantling the patterns of thought and behavior that keep us tethered to weakness. We cannot erect a resilient inner citadel on a foundation riddled with the termites of mental frailty. Many of us unknowingly engage in daily rituals of self-sabotage. These are not dramatic acts of self-destruction, but quiet, insidious habits that, over time, erode our willpower, cloud our judgment, and leave us vulnerable to the very anxieties and frustrations we wish to overcome. Let us unmask 4 of the most common culprits: complaining, comfort-seeking, excuse-making, and the insatiable need for external approval. 1. The corrosive habit of complaining. Think about the last 24 hours. How many times did you complain? Perhaps about the traffic, the weather, your workload, a slow internet connection, or a political headline. Complaining often feels like a harmless way to vent, a small release of pressure. But the Stoics would argue it's a dangerous indulgence. Each complaint, no matter how trivial, is an affirmation of powerlessness. When you complain about the traffic, you are, in essence, declaring, this external factor is controlling my mood and my experience. You are ceding your internal locus of control. Seneca, in his letters, often spoke about the importance of equanimity in the face of life's irritations. He didn't suggest that we should be oblivious to problems, but that our response should be constructive rather than merely critical. Complaining, by its nature, focuses on the problem without seeking a solution that is within our power. It's a passive stance. A mentally strong individual, when faced with a frustrating situation, asks a different set of questions: is this within my control? If yes, what is the most virtuous and effective action I can take? If no, how can I best accept it and move forward without letting it disturb my inner peace? Consider the modern workplace. It's easy to get drawn into a culture of complaint, about management, about colleagues, about policies. While some concerns may be valid, a constant stream of negativity rarely leads to positive change. Instead, it fosters a sense of victimhood and drains collective energy. The Stoic approach would be to either address the issue constructively through appropriate channels, if possible, or to focus on performing one's own duties with excellence and integrity, thereby becoming an island of stability and competence in a sea of discontent. Practical exercise, the complaint fast. For one entire day, make a conscious effort not to utter a single complaint, whether aloud or in your own mind. When the urge arises, acknowledge it, and then consciously redirect your thoughts. If it's a situation you can change, formulate a small action step. If it's something beyond your control, practice acceptance. At the end of the day, reflect on how this conscious shift impacted your mood and sense of agency. You might be surprised by the lightness and empowerment that comes from simply refusing to engage in this draining habit. This act aligns with the Stoic virtue of temperance, moderating our reactions and avoiding excess in our emotional expressions. 2. The alluring trap of comfort seeking. We are biologically wired to seek comfort and avoid pain. In our modern world, comfort is more accessible than ever before: temperature-controlled environments, instant entertainment, readily available food, and technologies designed to minimize effort. While these conveniences are not inherently bad, an unthinking pursuit of comfort can insidiously weaken our resilience. The Stoics understood that a life devoid of challenge, a life lived entirely within the confines of the comfort zone, is a life where the muscle of willpower atrophies. Seneca, despite his wealth, advocated for and practiced periods of voluntary discomfort. He would deliberately eat plain food, wear simple clothing, and sleep on a hard surface for several days at a time. His purpose was not self-punishment, but self-inoculation. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" By intentionally exposing himself to mild hardship, Seneca achieved two things: he diminished his fear of potential future misfortunes, and he strengthened his appreciation for what he normally possessed. In our daily lives, this doesn't mean we must seek out extreme deprivation. It means consciously choosing the slightly harder path at times, to build our tolerance for discomfort and to remind ourselves that we are capable of more than we think. It could be taking the stairs instead of the elevator, enduring a cold shower for a minute, choosing to exercise when you feel tired, or engaging in a difficult but necessary conversation instead of avoiding it. Each act of chosen discomfort is a deposit into your bank of mental toughness. It's an exercise in the Stoic virtue of courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. Storytelling, the tale of a modern ascetic. Imagine Sarah, a software developer who realized her evenings were consumed by passive entertainment and online shopping, leaving her feeling unfulfilled. Inspired by Seneca, she decided to implement discomfort evenings. Twice a week, instead of collapsing onto the couch, she would turn off all screens, eat a very simple meal, and dedicate the evening to reading challenging philosophy or working on a complex coding problem she'd been avoiding. Initially, it was incredibly difficult. The urge to seek distraction was immense. But over months, she found her focus sharpened, her cravings for mindless entertainment diminished, and her sense of accomplishment soared. She hadn't become a hermit, but she had reclaimed her evenings and, in doing so, fortified her will. 3. The elegant disguise of excuses. I don't have time. I'm too tired. It's not the right moment. I'm not talented enough. Excuses are the mind's sophisticated defense mechanisms, designed to protect our ego from the perceived pain of effort, risk, or potential failure. They sound reasonable, logical even. But more often than not, they are merely well-dressed fears. The Stoics, with their emphasis on reason and self-awareness, would urge us to scrutinize these internal narratives. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself in meditations to do the work of a human being. This implies a commitment to action, to fulfilling one's responsibilities and potential, without being swayed by the seductive whisper of excuses. When we make an excuse, we are essentially abdicating responsibility. We are saying, the reason I am not doing this is due to external factors or inherent limitations, rather than my own choice. A mind that consistently makes excuses becomes a weak mind, because it learns to avoid the very challenges that are necessary for growth. It fosters a passive orientation to life. The Stoic virtue of wisdom involves seeing things clearly, and this includes seeing our own tendencies towards self-deception. Are you truly too busy, or are you prioritizing poorly? Are you really too tired, or are you uninspired because the task lacks meaning for you? Are you genuinely untalented, or are you unwilling to put in the consistent effort required to develop a skill? Reflective prompt, the excuse audit. Take a moment to identify one important goal you've been putting off. Now, list all the reasons you've given yourself for not pursuing it. For each excuse, challenge it with radical honesty. Is it an insurmountable barrier, or a surmountable obstacle that you've chosen not to confront? What would it take, what small, concrete step, to render that excuse invalid today? 4. The unquenchable thirst for external approval. In an age dominated by social media, the desire for external validation, likes, shares, comments, praise, has become almost a reflex. We curate our lives, our thoughts, and even our appearance in anticipation of an audience. But the Stoics warned against tethering our self-worth to the fleeting and uncontrollable opinions of others. Epictetus stated, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." This is a radical antidote to the modern obsession with image and approval. When our actions are primarily motivated by the desire for praise, we become chameleons, constantly shifting to please those around us. We lose touch with our own inner compass, our own principles. True mental strength is rooted in an internal locus of evaluation. It's about acting in accordance with your values, your conscience, regardless of whether your actions are recognized, applauded, or even understood by others. Marcus Aurelius asked himself, does what is praised become better? Does an emerald become worse if it is not praised? What of gold, ivory, purple, a lyre, a dagger, a flower, a bush? The intrinsic value of a virtuous act, like the beauty of an emerald, does not depend on external admiration. Living by an inner scorecard requires the virtue of justice, not just in our dealings with others, but justice to ourselves, to our own authentic nature. It means having the courage to be disliked, to be misunderstood, if that is the price of living in alignment with our deepest convictions. Practical step, the unseen good deed. This week, perform one genuinely helpful or kind act for someone, but do it anonymously or without any expectation of thanks or recognition. It could be leaving an encouraging note, paying for someone's coffee behind you in line, or offering help without announcing it. Pay attention to how it feels to act purely from internal motivation, without the reward of external validation. This practice cultivates an inner resilience to the opinions of others. Shattering these chains, the habits of complaining, comfort-seeking, excuse-making, and approval-seeking, is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process of self-awareness and deliberate course correction. Each time you catch yourself slipping into an old pattern and consciously choose a more stoic response, you are reclaiming a piece of your inner freedom and laying another stone in the foundation of an unshakable mind. This conscious effort, this daily work, is what prepares you for the truly robust practices of Stoic strength building. 3. Forging the inner citadel, daily Stoic practices for indomitable strength. Having cleared the ground by addressing the mental habits that weaken us, we now turn to the constructive phase, the daily practices that actively forge an indomitable inner strength. The Stoics were not armchair philosophers, they were practitioners. They understood that philosophy, if it is to have any real value, must be lived, embodied, and woven into the very fabric of one's daily existence. An unshakable mind, an inner citadel, as Marcus Aurelius called it, is not a natural endowment but a carefully constructed fortress, built brick by brick through consistent, intentional effort. Let us explore some of the cornerstone practices of the Stoic toolkit. 1. The dawn contemplation, starting the day with purpose and perspective. How you begin your day often sets the tone for all that follows. Many of us lurch into consciousness, immediately besieged by the demands of the world, phone notifications, urgent emails, the cacophony of news. The Stoic morning, however, begins with a deliberate pause, a moment of quiet contemplation designed to anchor the mind and set a virtuous course. One powerful practice is the view from above. Imagine yourself rising, looking down upon your own life, your town, your country, the entire earth, and then the cosmos. From this vantage point, as Marcus Aurelius often encouraged himself to do, your personal worries and anxieties shrink in significance. The daily squabbles, the petty frustrations, the obsessive concerns, they appear as fleeting and insignificant as dust motes in a sunbeam. This exercise isn't meant to diminish the reality of your challenges, but to place them in a larger, more objective perspective, fostering a sense of calm and detachment. It helps to cultivate humility and a broader understanding of your place in the universe. Another critical morning ritual is to remind yourself of the 4 cardinal virtues of Stoicism. Wisdom, Sophia, the ability to discern what is good, bad, and indifferent, to navigate complex situations with clarity and sound judgment. Justice, dikaiosine, acting with fairness, integrity, and rightness towards others and oneself, fulfilling one's duties to the human community. Courage, Andrea, facing adversity, pain, and fear with resilience and moral fortitude, doing what is right even when it is difficult. Temperance, Sophrosyne, practicing moderation, self-control, and discipline in all things, avoiding excess and maintaining inner balance. Before engaging with the world, ask yourself, how can I embody wisdom in my decisions today? How can I act with justice in my interactions? Where will I need courage? How can I practice temperance in my desires and reactions? Setting this intention provides a moral compass for the day ahead. 2. Premeditatio malorum, the proactive rehearsal of adversity. Perhaps one of the most counterintuitive yet profoundly effective Stoic practices is premeditatio malorum, often translated as the premeditation of evils, or negative visualization. This is not an invitation to pessimism or morbid anxiety. Rather, it is a strategic mental exercise designed to strip potential misfortunes of their power to shock and derail us. Seneca advised, what is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster. This is a reason for ensuring that nothing ever takes us by surprise. We should project our thoughts ahead of us at every turn and have in mind every possible eventuality instead of only the usual course of events. Each morning, take a few moments to calmly contemplate the things that could go wrong during the day: a difficult commute, a technical failure, a critical boss, an uncooperative child, even more significant setbacks like illness or loss. The purpose is not to dwell on these possibilities with fear, but to mentally rehearse your Stoic response. If X happens, how will I maintain my composure? How will I apply the dichotomy of control? What virtues will I need to draw upon? By anticipating adversity, you rob it of its surprise element. You've already visited that scenario in your mind and prepared your internal defenses. When and if it occurs, you are less likely to be overwhelmed by panic or despair, and more capable of responding with clarity and resilience. It's like an emotional fire drill, practicing your escape route so that you're prepared if a real fire breaks out. 3. The philosophical diary, journaling for self-mastery. The Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, one of the most cherished Stoic texts, was never intended for publication. It was his personal philosophical journal, a place where he could converse with himself, examine his thoughts and actions, remind himself of Stoic principles, and strive for self-improvement. This practice of reflective journaling is a cornerstone of Stoic development. Dedicating even 10 to 15 minutes each day, perhaps in the evening, to write down your reflections can be profoundly transformative. Consider these prompts, inspired by Stoic teachings. What did I do well today, in accordance with my values? Where did I fall short? When did I allow my judgments or emotions to lead me astray? What challenges did I face, and how did I respond? Could I have responded more virtuously? What did I learn today, about myself, about others, about the world? What am I grateful for? A practice Seneca also emphasized. What specific Stoic principle can I focus on practicing tomorrow? Journaling is not merely recording events, it is an active process of self-examination and course correction. It provides a space for honest dialogue with oneself, fostering self-awareness and reinforcing the commitment to live a principled life. It makes your internal world tangible, allowing you to observe your patterns of thought and behavior with greater clarity. 4. The evening review, a Stoic reckoning. Related to journaling, many Stoics, notably Seneca, practiced a rigorous evening review of their day. Before sleep, they would mentally replay their actions, words, and thoughts, assessing them against the standard of virtue. Pythagoras, though not a Stoic, had a similar practice that influenced them. Never allow sleep to close your eyelids, after you have received the day, until you have examined all your actions of the day by your reason. In what have I erred? What done? What duty left undone? This isn't about self-flagellation or dwelling on mistakes with guilt. It's a calm, objective assessment aimed at learning and improvement. Where did I act in accordance with reason and virtue today? Acknowledge and reinforce positive actions. Where did I succumb to irrational judgments, unhelpful emotions, or unvirtuous actions? Identify areas for improvement. What could I have done differently? Formulate a better approach for the future. What duties did I neglect? Reinforce commitment to responsibility. This practice keeps the pursuit of virtue at the forefront of one's mind and ensures that each day, whether marked by success or setback, becomes a lesson. It prevents the passive accumulation of unexamined habits and fosters a proactive stance towards self-mastery. 5. The discipline of the body, physical fortitude as a mental ally. The Stoics recognized the interconnectedness of mind and body. While they prioritized the cultivation of inner virtue, they did not neglect the physical vessel. A disciplined mind is often supported by a disciplined body. Practices like regular exercise, enduring cold, or fasting, within healthy limits, were not just about physical health, they were seen as ways to train willpower, discipline, and resilience to discomfort, qualities directly transferable to mental and emotional challenges. Engaging in physical activity, pushing your body's limits in a controlled way, teaches you to endure, to persist when tired, to manage discomfort. These are lessons that fortify the mind. When you willingly choose the exertion of a workout, you are practicing the same mental muscles needed to endure a difficult emotional situation or a tedious but necessary task. A day in the life of a modern Stoic, extended example. Consider Alex, a project manager living a typically hectic modern life. 6 a.m., Alex wakes, and instead of reaching for the phone, sits quietly for 10 minutes, practicing the view from above, feeling the day's potential anxiety shrink. Alex then considers the virtue of justice for the day, planning to address a team conflict with fairness and impartiality. 6:30 a.m., premeditatio malorum. Alex visualizes a key presentation later that day, the projector might fail, a senior stakeholder might ask a tough question. Alex mentally rehearses staying calm, having a backup plan for the projector, and framing a thoughtful response to the tough question. 7 a.m., a cold shower for 2 minutes, a small act of voluntary discomfort to sharpen the will. Throughout the day, when frustrations arise, a delayed email, a curt colleague, Alex consciously applies the dichotomy of control, focusing on a calm, professional response rather than internalizing the negativity. 9 p.m., Alex dedicates 15 minutes to journaling, reflecting on how well the virtue of justice was upheld, noting a moment of impatience, a learning point, and expressing gratitude for a supportive word from a friend. 9:15 p.m., a brief evening review, acknowledging a successful handling of the presentation, thanks to the premeditation, and noting the need to be more patient in a specific recurring situation tomorrow. These daily practices are not meant to be burdensome additions to an already busy life. They are investments in your inner peace, your resilience, and your capacity to live a life of purpose and meaning. Like any form of training, consistency is key. Small, sustained efforts, woven into the rhythm of your days, will gradually build that unshakable inner citadel, a fortress of the mind capable of weathering any storm. And one of the greatest tests of this fortress is how it handles the inevitable experience of failure. 4. The Phoenix Protocol, Stoic alchemy for transmuting failure into fuel. In the grand theater of life, failure is an actor that commands the stage with unnerving frequency. It is a specter that haunts our ambitions, a source of shame, regret, and often, a full stop to our endeavors. Society, by and large, teaches us to fear failure, to avoid it at all costs, and when it inevitably occurs, to hide it or move past it with all possible speed as if it were a contagion. But what if this deeply ingrained aversion to failure is, in itself, a greater failure of perspective? The Stoics offer a radically different paradigm. Failure is not the enemy of success, but an indispensable, albeit often painful, instructor. It is not a verdict, but feedback. It is not a trap, but a map to our own undiscovered territories of weakness and potential growth. To a Stoic, an unshakable mind isn't one that never stumbles, but one that knows how to rise from the fall, not just intact, but stronger and wiser. This is the Phoenix Protocol, the art of dying to an old self, an old assumption, an old approach, and being reborn from the ashes of setback, infused with new insight. Central to this alchemical process is the Stoic understanding of preferred indifference. The Stoics classified external things, health, wealth, reputation, success, failure, as indifferent, in the sense that they are not essential for our virtue or happiness, which reside solely in our inner state, our judgments, and our choices. However, some indifferents are preferred, like health over sickness, success over failure, and others dispreferred. The key is that while we may prefer success, the outcome of our endeavors is never entirely within our control. What is within our control is the effort we put in, the intentions we hold, and, crucially, how we respond when the outcome is not what we preferred. When failure occurs, the untrained mind often defaults to blame, blaming oneself, I'm not good enough, blaming others, they sabotaged me, or blaming circumstances, the timing was wrong. This is a recipe for stagnation and resentment. The Stoic mind, however, approaches failure as a diagnostician approaches a complex case. There is no immediate emotional judgment, but a calm, rational inquiry. What exactly happened? Objective facts, not emotional narrative. What aspects of this outcome were due to my actions or inactions, within my control? What aspects were due to external factors, outside my control? What specific errors in judgment or execution did I make? What can I learn from these errors to improve my approach next time? What strengths did I exhibit even in this failure, and how can I build on them? Consider the story of Thomas Edison in his relentless pursuit of a practical incandescent light bulb. He famously tested thousands of filaments. When a reporter asked him if he felt like a failure after so many unsuccessful attempts, Edison reportedly replied, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This isn't just a clever retort, it's a profound expression of a Stoic-like mindset. Each failure was not an endpoint, but a data point, a piece of feedback that narrowed the path to success. He was not emotionally attached to any single failed attempt, he was committed to the process of discovery and refinement. Another compelling example comes from the world of entrepreneurship. Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, faced countless rejections from hosiery mills and investors when she first pitched her idea for footless pantyhose. Many would have given up after the first dozen no's. But Blakely had a unique upbringing that inadvertently instilled a Stoic approach to failure. Her father would ask her and her brother at the dinner table each week, "What did you fail at this week?" If they had no failures to report, he would be disappointed. He wasn't encouraging failure for its own sake, but encouraging the attempt, the willingness to try things where failure was a real possibility. This reframed failure from something to be ashamed of into evidence of effort and daring. Each rejection for Blakely wasn't a sign that her idea was bad, but a signal to refine her pitch, to find a different door, to persist with even greater resolve. Her eventual billion-dollar success was built on a mountain of failures that she refused to interpret as defeat. How can we, in our own lives, cultivate this robust, learning-oriented response to failure? 1. Decouple self-worth from outcomes. Remember that your inherent value as a human being is not determined by your successes or failures. These are external events. Your true worth lies in your character, your intentions, and your commitment to virtuous action. As Epictetus would remind us, failure in an external endeavor does not make you a failure, unless you choose to judge it so. 2. Practice the failure log. when you experience a significant setback, don't just try to forget it. Engage with it constructively. Create a failure log with the following columns: asterisk the event, describe what happened as objectively as possible. Asterisk my actions / inactions, controllable what did I do or not do that contributed to this. Asterisk external factors, uncontrollable what elements were outside my influence. Asterisk key lessons learned, what specific insights can I extract. Asterisk future adjustments, how will I modify my approach, thinking, or preparation next time based on these lessons. This structured reflection transforms failure from a purely emotional experience into an intellectual and practical learning opportunity. 3. Embrace hupsos, setback. As a teacher, the Greek Stoics sometimes used the term hupsos not just to mean height, but also, metaphorically, a kind of lofty perspective that can come from having been brought low. When we are humbled by failure, when our ego is bruised, it creates an opening for genuine learning and self-assessment that is often absent when we are riding high on success. Welcome these moments, however uncomfortable, as opportunities for profound self-discovery. 4. Focus on effort, not just results. While preferred indifference like success are desirable, the true measure of Stoic practice lies in the effort and intention you bring to your actions. Did you act with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance to the best of your ability? If so, then even if the external outcome is unfavorable, you have succeeded in what truly matters, living virtuously. This internal focus protects you from the crushing weight of disappointment when things don't go your way. 5. The role of resilience. Resilience, in a Stoic sense, is not about bouncing back to where you were before the failure. It's about integrating the lessons of that failure to bounce forward, to a new level of understanding and capability. Each time you face a setback, analyze it through a Stoic lens, and then re-engage with renewed effort and adjusted strategy. You are building the muscle of resilience. It's the understanding that, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way, as Marcus Aurelius so powerfully put it. The obstacle itself, when rightly understood and responded to, becomes the very material out of which progress is forged. Cato the Younger, a Roman statesman revered by the Stoics for his unwavering commitment to republican principles, faced numerous political defeats and ultimately, a tragic end. By conventional standards, his political career might be judged a failure. Yet, for Stoics like Seneca, Cato was the epitome of virtue precisely because he never compromised his principles, even in the face of overwhelming opposition and certain defeat. His failure became a timeless testament to integrity and courage. Rethinking failure like a Stoic is not about developing a callous to pain. It is about developing clarity, perspective, and an unyielding commitment to growth. It's about understanding that the path to an unshakable mind is paved not with unbroken successes, but with thoughtfully navigated setbacks. When you learn to extract the wisdom from every wound, failure ceases to be a source of fear and becomes, instead, an indispensable ally on your journey to self-mastery. And this mastery is most profoundly tested when our emotions are ignited under pressure. 5. The unmoved mover, mastering emotional responses in the crucible of life. Life, in its relentless unfolding, will inevitably place us in situations that ignite our emotions, frustration, anger, fear, disappointment, even intense joy. The untrained mind is often a captive of these emotional surges, reacting impulsively, speaking words it later regrets, making decisions clouded by the intensity of the moment. The Stoic path, however, is not one of emotional suppression or icy detachment, as is often misunderstood. It is the path of emotional mastery, the ability to experience the full spectrum of human feeling without being governed by it. It is about becoming the unmoved mover in the landscape of your own inner world, especially when under fire. The Stoics made a crucial distinction between propathei, first movements or involuntary feelings, and path, passions or full-blown emotions based on assent to faulty judgments. When someone insults you, the initial sting, the slight flush of anger, that's a propatheia, a natural, almost physiological reaction. It's what happens next that defines the Stoic response. Do you assent to the judgment that this insult has truly harmed you, that your worth has been diminished, that retaliation is necessary? If so, the propythia escalates into a path, a consuming passion like rage or deep resentment. The goal of Stoic emotional discipline is to intercept this process, to create a space between the initial feeling and the full-blown emotional response. In this space, reason can operate. Epictetus taught his students to challenge their impressions, practice then from the start to say to every harsh impression, you are an impression, and not at all the thing you appear to be. This cognitive distancing allows you to examine the judgment underlying the emotion before you endorse it. Consider the anecdote of the job candidate from the original script. Extended anecdote: the interview under scrutiny. Imagine a candidate, let's call her Anya, highly qualified, with a stellar resume, sitting in a final round interview for her dream job. One of the senior interviewers, known for his abrasive style, leans back and says, frankly, Anya, your experience in X sector seems rather superficial. I'm not convinced you have the depth we need. Anya feels an immediate jolt, a mix of surprise, indignation, a flicker of self-doubt. This is the propythia. Her heart rate might increase slightly, her palms might feel a touch clammy. The untrained response: to become defensive, to argue her credentials heatedly, to perhaps even subtly attack the interviewer's judgment, or to visibly deflate, her confidence shattered. But Anya has been practicing Stoic principles. She takes a barely perceptible slow breath. In that crucial pause, she applies Epictetus's advice. She tells herself, this is an impression, his opinion of my experience. It is not necessarily the objective truth about my experience, nor does it define my worth or capability. She then calmly looks at the interviewer, maintains eye contact, and says, with a steady voice, thank you for sharing that perspective. I can understand why it might appear that way on paper. Perhaps I can provide a more detailed example from my work on the Alpha project that illustrates the depth of my engagement and the results I achieved in that sector. Would that be helpful? What has Anya done? She hasn't suppressed her initial feeling. She acknowledged it internally. But she refused to let it dictate her response. She didn't get angry or defensive. Instead, she responded with temperance, moderating her reaction, courage, facing the criticism directly, and wisdom, choosing a constructive, informative response. She has masterfully created space, asserted her composure, and turned a potential confrontation into an opportunity to provide more information. The interviewer, likely expecting a defensive reaction, is now met with calm professionalism. This not only addresses the concern but also showcases Anya's character, her ability to handle pressure, a highly valuable trait. This ability to pause and choose a reasoned response over an impulsive reaction is a hallmark of a strong Stoic mind. It requires diligent practice. Here are some techniques. 1. The art of the pause. This is the foundational technique. When you feel a strong emotion welling up, consciously insert a pause before you speak or act. It can be as simple as taking 1 or 2 deep, slow breaths. This brief interval breaks the automatic stimulus-response chain and allows your rational mind to come online. Think of it as hitting the pause button on a remote control before the drama escalates. 2. Cognitive distancing, naming the emotion. When you feel anger, anxiety, or fear, try to mentally, or even verbally, if appropriate, name the emotion. This is anger I am feeling, or my mind is generating fearful thoughts right now. This simple act of naming creates a subtle separation between you, the observer, and the emotion itself. You are not anger, you are experiencing anger. This distance makes it less overwhelming. 3. Analyzing your impressions, assent control. This is core Epictetan practice. When an event occurs and an initial judgment or impression forms in your mind, e.g., this is terrible. He is disrespecting me, rigorously examine that impression. Is it based on objective reality, or is it colored by your own fears, insecurities, or past experiences? Are you adding a layer of catastrophic judgment to a neutral event? For example, someone cuts you off in traffic. Impression: that person is a reckless idiot and deliberately trying to endanger me. Stoic analysis: that person changed lanes abruptly. I don't know their reasons. My safety was momentarily compromised, but I am now safe. Their action is theirs, my peace of mind is mine. You refuse to assent to the initial, emotionally charged judgment. 4. Rehearse with premeditatio malorum, as discussed earlier. By anticipating situations where your emotions might be triggered, you can mentally prepare your Stoic response. If you know you have a meeting with a difficult person, visualize yourself remaining calm and principled, even if they become agitated. This pre-rehearsal makes it easier to access that calm state when the actual situation arises. 5. The role of the 4 virtues. When emotions flare, consciously call upon the virtues. Wisdom. What is the most rational and far-sighted way to respond here? Justice. What is the fair and right thing to do, both for myself and others involved? Courage. Do I have the courage to respond virtuously, even if it's difficult or unpopular? Temperance. How can I moderate my response and avoid excess or reactivity? Consider the original script's coffee shop argument example. Extended scene. The cafe confrontation. 2 individuals are in a public cafe. Their conversation, initially quiet, begins to escalate. Voices rise. One person, let's call him Ben, becomes visibly agitated, his face flushing. The other, Chloe, remains outwardly calm, her voice even. Ben, loudly, gesturing, you always do this. You never listen to what I'm actually saying. He slams his hand on the table. Cups rattle. Other patrons turn to look. The untrained response from Chloe might be to match his anger, to shout back, that's not true. You're the one who never listens. Or to burst into tears, or to storm out. But if Chloe is practicing Stoic emotional mastery, she feels the initial sting of his accusation, the embarrassment of the public scene. These are propathei. She takes a quiet, deliberate breath. The pause, she internally names her feelings. I am feeling unfairly accused and a bit embarrassed. Cognitive distancing, she analyzes her impressions. His statement, you always do this, is an exaggeration, a product of his anger. His anger is his, not mine. My goal here is not to win this argument, but to de-escalate or disengage constructively. Assent control. Chloe then might say, very calmly, after the briefest of pauses, Ben, I understand you're feeling unheard right now, and I can see you're upset. Perhaps this isn't the best place to continue this conversation. Can we talk about this later when we're both calmer? Her response doesn't validate his outburst but acknowledges his feeling, without necessarily agreeing with his premise. It avoids escalating the conflict. It proposes a rational alternative. She has chosen not to be pulled into his emotional storm. She has, in that moment, become the unmoved mover. Mastering your emotions under fire is not about becoming a robot, devoid of feeling. It is about becoming a skilled conductor of your inner orchestra, ensuring that all sections play in harmony, guided by the baton of reason, especially when the tempo of life becomes frenetic and dissonant. It's about realizing that in the space between stimulus and response lies your greatest power, the power to choose. And the consistent exercise of this choice is what builds a truly unshakable mental core. 6. The inner fortress, constructing an unshakable mental core. In the lexicon of Stoic philosophy, there is no concept more evocative of enduring mental strength than that of the inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, frequently returned to this image in his meditations. Remember that your ruling faculty is invincible. When self-contained it is satisfied with itself, if it does nothing which it does not will to do, even if it resist from mere obstinacy. How much more, then, when it forms its judgments rationally and after careful consideration. The mind freed from passions is a citadel, for man has nothing more secure to which he can fly for refuge and for the future be inexpugnable. He then who has not seen this is an ignorant man, but he who has seen it and does not fly to this refuge is unhappy. This inner citadel is not a physical place, but a state of mind, a fortress of reason, virtue, and tranquility that you construct within yourself, piece by piece, through consistent Stoic practice. It is the ultimate sanctuary, a place where your core self remains untouched and serene, regardless of the chaos or adversity raging in the external world. Building this unshakable mental core is the culmination of the mind shifts, habit corrections, and daily disciplines we have explored. What are the essential materials and architectural principles for constructing such an impregnable fortress? 1. The bedrock of principled living. The foundation of your inner citadel is an unwavering commitment to living in accordance with your deepest values and Stoic principles. This means that your actions are guided not by fleeting desires, social pressures, or fear of consequences, but by a clear understanding of what is virtuous and right. When your choices are consistently aligned with your principles, you cultivate a profound sense of integrity and self-respect that is incredibly resilient. External events may buffet you, but they cannot shatter a core built on such solid ground. If you value honesty, and you speak the truth even when it is difficult, you strengthen your citadel. If you value justice, and you strive to act fairly even when it is inconvenient, you add another stone to its walls. 2. The mortar of memento mori, reflection on mortality. It may seem paradoxical, but a profound awareness of our own mortality is one of the most powerful tools for building an unshakable mind. Memento mori, remember you will die, is not a morbid obsession, but a vitalizing perspective. When you regularly contemplate the finite nature of your existence, as the Stoics urged, several things happen: trivialities fade, the petty annoyances, the minor setbacks, the anxieties about reputation or material possessions, they lose their sting when viewed against the backdrop of mortality. What truly matters comes into sharp focus. Urgency for virtue. If time is limited, then every moment becomes precious, an opportunity to live well, to act virtuously, to make a positive impact. There is no time to waste on anger, resentment, or procrastination. Courage is bolstered. What is there to truly fear in external losses if the ultimate loss is inevitable and accepted? This acceptance can free you to take necessary risks, to speak your truth, and to live more boldly. Marcus Aurelius often used this reflection: you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This isn't meant to induce panic, but to instill a focused appreciation for the present and a commitment to living it well. 3. The walls of emotional self-regulation. As we explored in the previous section, the ability to manage your emotional responses is crucial. Your inner citadel must have strong walls, capable of repelling the assaults of irrational passions. This involves the diligent practice of pausing, analyzing your impressions, and choosing reasoned responses. Each time you successfully navigate an emotional trigger without losing your composure, you reinforce these walls. You learn that while you cannot stop the weather of emotions from occurring, you can prevent it from breaching your inner sanctuary. 4. The watchtower of self-awareness. Prosoke. The Stoics emphasized prosoke, a state of vigilant attention, mindfulness, and continuous self-monitoring. This is the watchtower of your citadel, from which you observe your own thoughts, judgments, and impulses. Without this self-awareness, you are vulnerable to being ambushed by your own unexamined reactions. Daily practices like journaling and the evening review are essential for maintaining this watchtower, allowing you to identify weaknesses in your defenses and to reinforce them. 5. Living in accordance with nature. Logos. For the Stoics, living in accordance with nature, or logos, cosmic reason/order, meant understanding and accepting the natural order of things, including the interconnectedness of all events and the inevitability of change, hardship, and loss. It meant recognizing that we are parts of a larger whole and that our individual well-being is intertwined with the well-being of the human community. When you align your will with this larger order, when you accept what you cannot change and focus on acting virtuously within the sphere of your control, you find a profound sense of peace and stability. Your citadel is not isolated from the world, but harmoniously integrated with its fundamental realities. Revisiting Mark from Cincinnati, the unseen citadel. Let's return to the story of Mark, the delivery driver who faced a cascade of misfortunes: the accident, job loss, his girlfriend leaving, financial ruin, all while his mother battled cancer. His typed note, "No one's coming, so I have to come for myself," is the sound of someone beginning to lay the first stones of an inner citadel, perhaps unknowingly. Acceptance of reality. dichotomy of control, he didn't rail against fate or the injustice of his situation. He assessed the stark reality: external help wasn't materializing. The focus shifted to his own agency. Self-reliance, focus on internal resources, I have to come for myself. This is a powerful affirmation of inner strength. He couldn't control the job market immediately, or his ex-girlfriend's decision, or his mother's illness. But he could control his next step, his effort. Action despite hardship, courage and discipline, taking day work at an auto shop, then learning to fix the very kind of truck that symbolized his downfall, and eventually writing a book titled, Enduring Didn't Make Me Strong. Rebuilding did. These are acts of profound resilience. He didn't just endure, he rebuilt. This rebuilding, this conscious effort to learn, to adapt, to create something new from the wreckage of his old life, is the very process of constructing an inner citadel. His citadel wasn't built overnight. It was forged in the quiet, unseen moments of choosing to get up, to face another day, to learn a new skill, to put one foot in front of the other, even when every fiber of his being might have wanted to succumb to despair. His eventual success wasn't a product of luck, it was the inevitable outcome of a mind that had become, through adversity and conscious effort, unshakable. He had learned to rely on his own ruling faculty. Reflective exercise, blueprint of your citadel. Take some time for a journaling exercise. Title it, The Blueprint of My Inner Citadel. Foundations. What are the core principles and values that you want to be the bedrock of your inner strength? E.g., honesty, compassion, perseverance, learning. Walls. What specific Stoic practices, e.g., the pause, analyzing impressions, negative visualization, will you use to defend against negative emotions and irrational judgments? Watchtower. How will you cultivate self-awareness, prosoc, on a daily basis? E.g., specific journaling prompts, daily review. Reinforcements. What past experiences of overcoming adversity can you draw upon as evidence of your existing strength? How can memento mori and living in accordance with nature strengthen your resolve? Building your inner citadel is the work of a lifetime. There will be breaches, moments when your defenses are tested, perhaps even temporarily overcome. But with each challenge faced, each lesson learned, each virtuous response chosen, the walls become stronger, the foundations deeper. People around you may not understand the source of your calm in the storm, your resilience in the face of setbacks. They may even find your lack of reactivity unsettling. But they will sense the presence of something formidable, something unshakable. That is the quiet power of a mind that has found its refuge within. And this inner construction relies not on the whims of fortune or feeling, but on something far more reliable, discipline. 7. The perpetual engine. Why Stoic discipline outlasts fleeting motivation. You wake up one Monday morning, the air crisp, a new week dawning, and a surge of motivation courses through you. Today, you declare, is the day. The day you'll finally commit to that new exercise regimen, tackle that daunting project, or start writing that book. You feel inspired, energized, unstoppable. You hit the ground running, and for a few days, perhaps even a week, your enthusiasm carries you forward. But then, inevitably, the initial spark begins to fade. The alarm clock at 5:30 a.m. on a cold, dark Thursday doesn't seem quite as inviting. The project reveals its complexities, the blank page its intimidation. The vibrant colors of motivation drain away, leaving behind the dull gray of effort. What happens then? For many, this is where the journey stalls. We wait for motivation to return, like a fickle muse. We tell ourselves, I'm just not feeling it today, or I need to get inspired again. But if your progress is solely dependent on the capricious tides of emotion and inspiration, your path will be one of fits and starts, of brief sprints followed by prolonged stagnation. The Stoics understood a more enduring truth: true, sustained progress is not built on the shifting sands of motivation, but on the bedrock of discipline. Motivation is an emotion, a feeling. It's wonderful when it's present, a welcome wind in our sails. But like all emotions, it is transient, unreliable, and largely outside of our direct control. We cannot simply will ourselves to feel motivated. Discipline, however, is a choice, an act of will, a commitment to a course of action regardless of how we feel in any given moment. It is the internal engine that keeps you moving forward even when the winds of inspiration die down. Epictetus, in his discourses, repeatedly emphasized the importance of ascesis, rigorous training in self-discipline, not just for athletes, but for anyone seeking to live a virtuous and flourishing life. He argued that we must train our desires and aversions, our judgments and our actions, with the same dedication that a wrestler trains their body. It is difficulties that show what men are, he stated, implying that it is in the crucible of challenge, when motivation is scarce, that true character and discipline are revealed and forged. Consider the life of a professional writer. Do they only write when inspiration strikes? If so, they would produce very little. The prolific author often adheres to a strict writing schedule, a certain number of words or hours per day, every day, whether they feel creative or not. They show up. They do the work. Sometimes the words flow effortlessly, other times, it's a painstaking struggle. But the discipline of consistent action is what eventually produces the manuscript. Motivation might initiate the journey, but it is discipline that carries them to the finish line. Similarly, think of an elite athlete. Their training regimen is demanding, often grueling, and certainly not always enjoyable. There are days when their bodies ache, when their spirits are low, when the thought of another punishing workout is almost unbearable. But they train anyway. Their commitment is not to a fleeting feeling of enthusiasm, but to a long-term goal, and they understand that achieving that goal requires unwavering discipline. How, then, do we cultivate this Stoic discipline, this inner engine that outlasts motivation? 1. Anchor your actions to principles, not feelings. The Stoic acts not because they feel like it, but because it is the right thing to do, in accordance with their principles and values. If you have committed to a healthier lifestyle, your decision to exercise or eat nutritious food should be based on that principle, not on whether you feel energetic or tempted by unhealthy options. Before acting or not acting, ask yourself, what does my commitment to require of me in this moment? This shifts the locus of decision from emotion to reason. 2. Embrace systems and routines. Discipline thrives on structure. Instead of relying on spontaneous bursts of effort, create systems and routines that make desired actions almost automatic. If you want to read more, schedule a specific time each day for reading, even if it's just for 15 minutes. If you want to learn a new skill, dedicate consistent blocks of time to practice. James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, emphasizes the power of making it obvious, making it attractive, making it easy, and making it satisfying. These are principles for designing systems that support discipline by reducing the friction involved in taking the right action. A routine, once established, requires less willpower to maintain because it becomes ingrained. 3. Start small and build incrementally. The power of Procope. The Stoics believed in Procope, or gradual progress. Trying to implement massive, sweeping changes all at once often leads to overwhelm and burnout, a swift depletion of willpower. Instead, focus on making small, consistent improvements. If you want to wake up earlier, start by setting your alarm 10 minutes earlier for a week, then another 10, and so on. If you want to meditate, begin with just 2 to 3 minutes a day. These small victories build momentum and self-efficacy, making it easier to sustain the discipline over the long term. As Seneca noted, klesha, hardship/effort, if you accustom yourself to it, becomes light. This is a thematic paraphrase of Seneca's ideas on habituation to hardship. 4. Practice voluntary discomfort. As discussed earlier, intentionally exposing yourself to mild forms of discomfort, cold showers, simple food, delaying gratification, is a direct way to train your willpower. When you learn to consciously choose and endure small discomforts, you are strengthening the mental muscle that allows you to push through the resistance you feel when motivation wanes for more significant tasks. You are teaching your mind that you are not a slave to comfort or immediate gratification. 5. Focus on the process, not just the outcome. While goals are important for direction, an excessive focus on the outcome can be demotivating, especially if progress is slow or setbacks occur. Discipline is sustained by a commitment to the process. Find satisfaction in the act of showing up, of putting in the effort, regardless of the immediate results. The writer finds reward in the act of writing itself, the athlete in the rigor of training. This internal validation fuels discipline far more effectively than a distant, uncertain outcome. 6. The role of kathekon, duty/appropriate action. The Stoics placed great emphasis on kathekon, often translated as duty or appropriate action. These are the actions that are fitting for a rational, social being. Fulfilling your duties, to your work, your family, your community, yourself, is not contingent on feeling motivated. It is a matter of principle. When you view your commitments through the lens of appropriate action, discipline becomes less about forcing yourself and more about aligning yourself with what reason and virtue demand. Extended example: the disciplined student. Imagine two students, Maria and Ben, both aiming for high grades in a challenging course. Maria relies heavily on motivation. She studies in long, intense bursts when she feels inspired or when an exam is looming. On days she feels tired or unengaged, she easily postpones her work, telling herself she'll catch up later. Her progress is erratic. Ben, on the other hand, cultivates discipline. He creates a study schedule, breaking down the material into manageable daily chunks. He dedicates a specific time each day to studying, whether he feels like it or not. He minimizes distractions during this time. He reviews his notes regularly, even when he feels he understands the material. He might not always feel enthusiastic, but he consistently does the work. Come exam time, Maria might cram, fueled by stress-induced adrenaline, a form of motivation. Ben, having built his understanding steadily through disciplined effort, approaches the exam with calm preparedness. His success is not a product of last-minute inspiration, but of sustained, methodical work. He has built an engine of progress. Maria is waiting for the wind. The truth is, motivation will inevitably abandon you. It is a fair-weather friend. Discipline, however, is the steadfast companion that will see you through the storms. It is the quiet, relentless force that transforms aspirations into achievements. When you build your life on the foundation of Stoic discipline, you are no longer at the mercy of your moods or the allure of immediate gratification. You become the master of your actions, the captain of your days. This doesn't mean life becomes devoid of joy or inspiration. It means these become welcome enhancements to a journey already powered by an unshakable commitment to principled action. The mind that is disciplined is a mind that is free. It is a mind that is truly strong, not because it shouts its intentions, but because it silently, consistently, powerfully acts. Conclusion. We have traversed a significant landscape together today, journeying through the core tenets of Stoic philosophy as they apply to the forging of an unshakable mind. We began with the foundational mind shift, the courageous acceptance of life's inherent challenges and the profound understanding that our true power lies not in bending the world to our will, but in mastering our own inner responses, our judgments, and our choices, through the wisdom of the dichotomy of control and the embrace of amor fati. We then confronted the insidious habits, complaining, comfort-seeking, excuse-making, and the craving for external approval, that silently corrode our mental strength, and we explored Stoic strategies for dismantling these chains. From there, we turned to the constructive work, the daily Stoic practices like the dawn contemplation, the premeditatio malorum, reflective journaling, the evening review, and physical discipline, all designed to build, brick by brick, that impregnable inner citadel. We learned to reframe failure, not as a mark of defeat, but as an invaluable, albeit often harsh, teacher, a catalyst for growth, resilience, and deeper self-understanding. We delved into the art of emotional mastery, the capacity to stand firm and respond with reason even when buffeted by the storms of passion, creating that vital space between stimulus and response where true freedom resides. We envisioned the construction of our inner fortress, a sanctuary of calm and principle, reinforced by memento mori and a life lived in accordance with nature. And finally, we recognized the supreme importance of Stoic discipline, an unwavering commitment to principled action that far outlasts the fleeting whispers of motivation, serving as the perpetual engine for a life of purpose and strength. The journey to an unshakable mind, as the Stoics understood so profoundly, is not a sprint to a distant finish line, nor is it the attainment of some static state of perfection. It is, rather, a lifelong practice, a continuous process of self-awareness, diligent effort, and courageous engagement with the realities of our existence. There will be moments of clarity and strength, and there will be moments when old habits resurface, when emotions threaten to overwhelm, when discipline wavers. This is part of the human condition. The Stoic path is not about achieving invulnerability, but about cultivating an ever stronger capacity to return to center, to re-engage our reason, to choose the virtuous response, again and again. The transformative power of a Stoic mindset extends far beyond mere mental toughness. It cultivates a profound sense of inner peace, even amidst external chaos. It imbues life with a deep sense of purpose, rooted in virtue and service. It fosters a resilience that is not brittle, but flexible and enduring. It allows you to navigate the complexities of human relationships with greater wisdom and compassion. Ultimately, it empowers you to live a life of genuine freedom, freedom from the tyranny of unchecked emotions, freedom from the fear of uncontrollable events, and freedom from the endless pursuit of external validation. You may not always feel strong in the conventional sense. But as you integrate these principles into your daily life, you will begin to notice a subtle shift. A greater calm in moments of pressure. A quicker recovery from setbacks. A clearer sense of what truly matters. A diminished need for the approval of others. A growing confidence in your ability to handle whatever life may bring. This is the quiet unfolding of an unshakable mind. Others may not always understand the source of your composure, your resilience, your principled action. They may even, as we posited at the outset, find your unwavering calm somewhat unsettling, a mirror reflecting their own reactivity. But what they will undoubtedly sense is a strength that is authentic, grounded, and deeply respected. Remember the words of Seneca, difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Do not shy away from the labor required to build your inner fortress. Every challenge embraced, every emotion thoughtfully managed, every disciplined action taken, is a step towards becoming that unshakable individual you aspire to be. The tools are ancient, timeless, and profoundly effective. The choice to wield them is yours, every single day. This is not just about building a mind so strong it impresses or even scares others, it is about building a mind so strong it liberates you. A mind that allows you to live with profound integrity, purpose, and an enduring, quiet joy, no matter the circumstances. That is the true promise of Stoicism. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Stoic art of building an unshakable mind. We hope this exploration has provided you with valuable insights and practical tools to begin, or to continue, your own journey towards greater mental strength and inner peace. The path of Stoicism is one of continuous learning and practice. Which of these principles or practices resonated most powerfully with you today? What is the one insight, or the one action, that you will commit to implementing in your life starting now? We would be genuinely honored to read your reflections and experiences in the comments section below. Your journey, your struggles, and your breakthroughs can inspire and support others in this community. If you found value in this discussion and wish to continue exploring the profound wisdom of Stoic philosophy with BAudio, we warmly invite you to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our future explorations. Please also consider giving this video a like if it has contributed to your understanding or inspired you in any way. It truly helps us reach more individuals who may benefit from these timeless teachings. And, of course, feel free to share this video with anyone you believe might find it helpful on their own path. Until next time, may you walk your path with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. May you build your inner citadel strong.